Hi everybody, welcome back to Brelsford Family Homestead. I'm Darcy. Today I am going to be making naan bread to freeze for use later. I like to use it for dipping in lentil soup or with homemade tikka masala, or even just making easy naan bread pizzas. So I usually make a double batch of this. Today I'm gonna try 4. This might be a mistake, but you'll be here for it, right? So anyway, I want to get a lot in the freezer. We're getting close to the time where I'm going to be doing a lot more canning, and then school will be starting. I homeschool my kids, and they love naan bread pizzas, and it'll just be an easy lunch for us. So I'm going to gather my ingredients, and we'll get started. It's really simple. You just need plain yogurt, milk, yeast, salt, and sugar, and a neutral oil. I like to use avocado oil. I am also going to be using garlic powder, just because I like to add a little bit of flavor to that. You do not need to use it. You could use some other seasoning as well. I am also using goat milk and homemade goat's milk yogurt, but store-bought plain yogurt, cow's milk, whatever you have will work in this. So I'll gather my ingredients and we'll be right back. Okay, I've got all of my ingredients gathered here. I wanted to give you an angle to see exactly what I'm doing. I am working on getting a bigger, taller tripod to get some better angles. I bought one and it didn't work out. So still working on that. I will link the recipe below. It was one that was shared with my husband. His coworker is married to a woman from India, and she said it was the closest to anything she'd had. So I have been making it for about a little over a year, I think, and it's delicious and so easy. So anyway, I have my flour in a bowl here, and I'm just going to make a well here in the middle and add all of the ingredients. Okay, I have the yeast, the baking powder, sugar. Like I said, I am making a quadruple recipe of this, so this is gonna make a lot. Salt, this is pink Himalayan salt, and this is some of my homemade garlic powder. This is so much stronger than any garlic powder I've ever used, and it doesn't clump together like some. I guess I dehydrated it enough, so if you make some, I'll link the recipe, or not recipe, the instructions below on when I did it and when I harvested my garlic. But it's really good, so I'm going a little lighter on that than I normally would because it is very potent. And then I've got some yogurt, and this is my avocado oil, so you're just going to use some type of neutral oil. And actually, this gets kind of messy because you're supposed to work it in with your hands. So and you just want to work it around until it's incorporated into all of it. Will take me a little bit longer since I'm using so much here. The amounts for one recipe though are 4 cups of all-purpose flour, or 500 grams. I always weigh my ingredients when possible. Most kitchen scales will give you an option between ounces and grams. 2 tablespoons of oil, 4 tablespoons of whole milk yogurt, 7 grams or 1 packet of active dried yeast, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 level teaspoon of baking powder, and a cup of milk, whole milk, that has been warmed. It doesn't have to be, hot or anything, just warmed so it's not cold. Plus you don't want it really hot because when you don't want to put really hot liquid onto yeast because then it won't rise. So you can see it's kind of like crumbly now as that's worked through there. And then you're just going to add the milk. This is going to get even messier. You're going to add the milk just in small amounts and work it through. I guess it would be kind of like if you've ever made a pie crust and you add a little bit to the well, you mix it through, and then you add a little bit more until everything's moistened. When I make this, like I said, I usually double this. I freeze it, and what's worked best for me is actually just vacuum sealing it. I usually can get like 6 or so in one vacuum seal bag. I've also just wrapped it like in parchment and plastic, or plastic and foil. And I don't know exactly how long it would stay in the freezer, because I've never kept it for more than a couple of months. And so for that for sure. I'm kind of all over the place with this, but it'll all come together. It'll be good. To turn this out onto the counter, I'll flour it first and flour my hands. We're going to knead it for 5 minutes. If you are mixing this and you don't feel like all of it's coming together, like there's still a lot of dry underneath, you can add a little bit more warmed milk. Just do a cup, like a little splash at a time, so it doesn't become too much, because it will really depend on the weather, the humidity, and heat in your kitchen. All right, so I'm gonna put some flour down here. This is going to be quite the big piece to work with. It's not bad. I was worried about this part because of it being... Let me change the angle so you don't have to just look at that. Let's see here. Hey. Maybe you can see both. Oh, you didn't want to see my hand, did you? How's that? That better? Okay. So let's see, 5 minutes here. I'm sure I'll probably speed this up so you don't have to watch this for 5 minutes. But as you go, you'll start to feel the difference as it breaks down and mixes and the gluten is forming. It's a good time to listen to some music or a podcast. Play some worship music is my favorite time, but I can't play that while I'm recording because of copyright. But you can pray too. I like to feel the way that the bread changes as I manipulate it. I make sourdough as well. I actually have some behind the camera that is rising, forming, whatever word you use. It's a long process. It's not a lot of hands-on time, but you do have to be around. But you can, if you have small things to do, you can time it around that. I had to take my daughter to the dentist this morning, And so I had 2 hours that it was sitting before I needed to touch it again. Unfortunately, that was more than enough time for me to take her to the dentist. But you know, this homesteading thing kind of implies that you're at home. So I'm home a lot, and that's okay. I love to be with my family, and I know that I will never regret the time that I have spent with my kids. When they're adults and they go to do their own thing, I will not regret that I gave up some things to spend my time with them. Even though, honestly, some school days, they would rather me not be their teacher, but that's just real life. Anybody who doesn't have challenges with their kids is not telling the truth. My kids are great, though. I really consider it a blessing and an honor to be their mom. That's good. Just form that into a ball. I'm gonna put it back in my bowl. I'm gonna put a little bit of oil in the bowl. And a little bit, I'm gonna rub on top. Then I'm going to cover this bowl and set it aside for 60 to 90 minutes. And then we'll come back and we will roll it out. We'll cut it up, roll it out, and start cooking it. All right, I think I have you set up to where you can see what I'm doing. I let this about double in size. So now I am going to turn it out and start dividing it into pieces. For a single recipe, you divide it into 12 pieces. So we're going to be doing 48. You can use a knife or a bench scraper like this. This is what I prefer to use. If you want these to be exact, you can obviously weigh them. I just eyeball it. It's not that kind of recipe where it has to be exact. What I like to do when I'm normally only doing 2 batches, but is just roll these up into the balls and then I start rolling them out. So I'll get all of this done first and then we'll start rolling them out. Okay, I am going to flour this a little bit. I'll get my rolling pin. Yeah, I'm gonna grab my apron so I don't make a huge mess of myself. I didn't flour my rolling pins. You're just gonna roll them out to a shape kind of like this. I like to get a stack of them going and then start cooking them on the griddle. And you can usually do like 3 or 4 at a time on the griddle. if they're floured, then they're not sticking together in the pile. These cook fairly quickly. That's another reason I like to have a pile of them ready to go. And then also I can start cleaning up a mess on my counter for other things that I'm doing for dinner if I'm also making something else. Which I think we might just be doing naan bread pizzas tonight by the time I get done with all this stuff. And we have an amazing church service tonight, so we'll just be, I think, doing that. All right, I'm gonna throw these on the griddle. These ones are smaller, so they can fit 4. Okay, these are looking good. So I am just going to take them and put them in my little baking dish over here so they can cool. I like to kind of set them up on the edge to let some air flow. That one looks like Africa. I love Africa. Fun fact, I used to live there. Well, not on the whole continent. You know it's a continent. Pet peeve. It's not a country, it's a continent. I lived in Cameroon for 3.5 years as a missionary, and I loved every minute of it. I've also lived in some other countries too. And somehow made it back to Ohio, where I was born. Never thought. Here, I'll take one of the first ones. You can see. Yum. Oh, foul! I dropped a piece on the floor. Here it is, guys. I usually just cut it in half like this and enjoy. Look at that. Delicious. Thanks for coming along today as I made naan bread. I hope you'll give it a try and let me know what you think in the comments below. Until next time, thanks for watching and God bless.